What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Vitality Vision podcast, where I invite guests of various backgrounds and life experiences to share their knowledge on how saying yes has impacted their lives. Today, joining me is Frank Cowell, who has over 20 years of marketing experience and is going to give us some insider info on his book and going to drop some truth bombs with us. So let's get started. You ready?
Bomb. You're committing me to truth bombs. I think
am.
I don't know if I can live up to that for your first podcast episode.
Well, welcome to our podcast.
Setting
I really
the bar
do
high.
appreciate you being here and spending some of your valuable time. I know you're very busy, but I appreciate you spending some of your time to share your knowledge and your experiences with us. For those of you who are not familiar yet, Frank is a husband, a father, a mentor, keynote speaker, podcast host, author, and a CEO of a digital marketing company called Digitopia. Ooh, let's say that again. Digitopia. Just to name a few of his important titles. And wow, I have a lot of questions for you. And I'm sure the followers listening are eager just to hear how successful, like a successful person such as yourself went from walking door to door to now being the leader of his own company. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Happy to share that. And we could talk a little bit about what success means and, how I may or may not feel successful. And I can share insights on, a lot of the other entrepreneurs that I know and talk to, their views on success. But that's definitely, there's an interesting relationship between entrepreneur and the word successful.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear about it. But before we get into all the details of that, I do want to start off by asking you a question. So I plan to ask all of my guests, but you being the first is really special.
Okay.
And that is, what do you believe is the key to happiness? But before you answer, the reason why I ask is because I feel that all of us have different experiences in life that bring us joy, but ultimately it's your chosen yeses that have led to your success or your happiness. So what do you think is the key to this happiness?
Honestly, I think it's just time, age. You know that saying, with age comes wisdom. Mm-hmm. I could tell you all day long, being a 20-something, exactly what it is. And you can hear it and understand it, and you can attempt to do it. But at the end of the day, you kind of just have to go through life and understand what works for you when you're in the zone, when you're not in the zone, when you decide enough is enough and you kind of just stop caring about what other people think, or when you get to this place where the things you were interested in your 20s and 30s just kind of don't matter anymore. And I think that really is the key to success or happiness is along the way, along that journey, just really working hard, having, high values, a great work ethic, committing to things, coming at life with a spirit of service and enthusiasm. And then I think when you get to a certain age, there's a lot of things that just come together. And I think that's the thing that everyone needs to understand about success in general, is that there are no magic formulas. It's just about this relentless pursuit. And with that relentless pursuit, things kind of just snowballs on itself and builds on itself. And then one day you wake up and go, oh, wow, like I'm capable of these things that, 15 years ago wasn't capable of, or people today may wish they could have. And so people are seeking shortcuts today. And I think, again, with age comes wisdom. And I think one of the things I've learned is that there are no shortcuts. And so I think with that, being happy with the moment and having something that you're absolutely enthused about helps. Certainly that can be helpful.
Definitely.
But when you're in your 20s and 30s, there's going to be things that you're concerned about that you realize when you're in your 40s, you're like, oh, geez, why was I even like so wrapped up in that? You know, whether it's like what your friends think or family drama or, work drama, all of a sudden you get to this place where you're like, that shit doesn't matter anymore. Like, I just don't care about it. And then something magical happens. But along the way where you can help your happiness, I think there's a couple of things. There's some really big ticket items. Okay. One, what you do for a living. You absolutely must feel like what you're doing for a living, you enjoy. In fact, it should be something where if you didn't get paid for it, you would still do it anyway. Like you don't wait to clock out at 5. You have to be pulled away at 7 p.m.
I like that.
That's the difference. And if you're at work and you're waiting to clock out at 5 or waiting to clock out when your schedule ends, that's a clue that maybe you're not doing something that's fulfilling you. So do something to where people have your friends and family have to pull you away because you're so enthralled. Now, I'm not suggesting you put work ahead of your friends and family, but it should have that kind of draw for you. It should capture you.
Yeah.
To where you're just like, you can't help yourself. Find work that draws that and taps into that. That's one. Number 2, your closest relationship. Okay. So this is your spouse, your significant other.
Right.
Take the time to get this right. Nothing will make you more freaking miserable than to be married to the wrong person. Okay. Take the time to get this right. This is one of the most critical decisions in your life. It's not to be taken lightly. And so there are some things early on that you may not be thinking about in terms of compatibility. So take your time. There's no reason to rush into things. So this is what I tell young people all the time, right?
Yeah.
Do work that you have to just like be pulled away from. Take your time on that significant other in your relationship. There is no rushing that. There is no rushing that, because who you're going to spend all of those hours with inside your home matters a whole hell of a lot more than a lot of other decisions you're going to make. Right.
Absolutely.
And then just like, beyond that, like figure out what puts you in the zone, like what makes you happy, when do you feel most energized, and kind of do those things and worry less about the other things. But it's a pretty simple formula, in my opinion, right? Find work you love, make sure that the person you're going to be with forever is the right decision, right? There has to be chemistry and compatibility. And, when you're young, the dates and the travel and all that is super fun, right? But that stuff wears down at it. That stuff like it's not like the roller coaster. It's not the circus 24/7 as it is in a new relationship. Right. So at some point, like you got to figure out like, what is this common substance that keeps you like really locked in? That's really critical. But those two things right there, honestly, you figure that out. And you've got a great plan for whether it's investing or saving or something. It's kind of simple. And, that's how I would answer that question. Sorry, it was so long.
I love that. No, I love it. I was trying to soak up everything I could. I'm excited to hear this back. I really like, I do love those two things you mentioned, but I really like when you mentioned the relentless pursuit, because obviously, we have a close relationship, and knowing, the way that you have said yes to things in your life, it's totally like apparent in your life that you do have this relentless pursuit when it comes to the things that are around your life and the people who are close to you, or you choose to allow to be close to you. So I love that. So obviously you're a leader, and I know you're a doer though, because you can say all day long somebody is the leader of a business, or, the head of the company or the face of the company, but you are a doer as well. I know that you've spoken at different schools, and I know that you're not only an inspiration to myself and, others that I know, but I'm sure to many who are looking to enter into the field of, let's say, like digital marketing or entrepreneurship or building their own brand, as you call it. So my question is, what solid advice would you have given yourself that you can lend to somebody that's possibly wanting to pursue a career that's similar to yours, or just being an entrepreneur?
Well, first, one of the things I would say is you don't need anyone's special blessing. You don't need anyone's special diploma that you get from some expensive institution. Right. You do not need any third-party permission or validation to do whatever the hell you want in life. We live in a society where, sadly, we've trained young people to think that their only ticket to doing what they want in life, and their only ticket to experiencing the kind of joy and success they hope for in life, is to get validation from some third party. So first and foremost, scrap that idea right now. Realize that you create your own lane. Realize that you get to have 100% control and say over exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So as such, no one else is the flip side of that is no one else is responsible for your happiness, freedom, and success as well. Mm-hmm. No one is going to hand it to you. Right. You mentioned a moment ago there about doing. Success is about doing. It's less about studying. It's less about planning. It's less about pondering. It's much more about doing. So when I hear people who want to cry about like what opportunities they maybe didn't have and it wasn't fair and this and that, I say, bullshit. Just do. You have to do a lot more than you talk and whine and complain.
Right.
Do. Right. The more you do, the more magic happens. If there's one thing that is magical that I could say is magical in life, right? Like if we want to get like real spiritual and warm and fuzzy and woo woo, right? The more you do, the more luck happens. It's just a fact. It just happens. And so everyone is capable of doing. Everyone's capable of just doing and just starting. There's no one that's holding the turnstile, not letting you through to the other side of life, to this other opportunity. You just have to do. And if you do come across something where someone does control the door, you go find another door. Go create your own door. And so the doing is what makes for success. What was your original question here? Because I went off on a tangent around the doing because you said the doing, and that really fired me up because it's something that I'm passionate about right now, is that we live in a world where too many people are being told that life is hedged against you and life isn't fair. And there's so many people trying to hold you down. And to that, I say BS. To that, I say, especially if you live here in the United States of America, we have so much opportunity just staring us in the face every single day. I don't think people even realize that people here that start out at a quote unquote disadvantage comparatively to the rest of the world, they have massive opportunity.
Yeah.
Right here. It's all in front of us. Right. And so just start doing, stop thinking about it, stop complaining about it, stop worrying about it, start doing.
Love that. So when obviously you mentioned, you continuing to go on, and that ties back in again with that whole relentless pursuit comment you made earlier as well. But when things were challenging for you and difficult, I would assume would be the start of your career. I mean, obviously now too, as you take on more things and take on these roles and you have these different hats and, expectations from people. But let's back up to just a long time ago when you first entered into this field. Obviously, your difficult looks completely different than your difficult now, right? So how do you get through those times that are really trying and challenging? And what's something that you do that maybe could help other people that are in that struggle moment right now?
I would say accept it. Struggle, challenge.
Deep.
It's a part of every day. If you're going to be in business for yourself, you better just realize you're signing up for that forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Struggle, challenge. And there's a saying in business that says every business is in a state of chaos, the degree to which determines their success. So that's just about accepting that business is just chaotic. When you start out in your career, you're going to struggle with some things. When you get later in your career, there's going to be challenges and whatnot. So I think when you just learn to accept that every stage has some sort of boulder to either break through, climb over, go around, then it can be fun and it can be interesting and it can be a positive challenge. But if every challenge is met with like, oh, golly gee, darn, I've had such a tough day and why me? You're not going to get very far. Okay. I'm telling you, that's the total difference between successful entrepreneurs and unsuccessful entrepreneurs. That's the only difference, is they didn't accept, oh, golly gee, why me?
They're just committed.
And you got to like up, over, around, through, break it, whatever you got to do, you keep doing, you keep going. And so the early days, the challenges for me in the early days were just really just, it didn't really feel like a challenge because I was so obsessed with what I was learning and doing. To me, for me, my work has always been, you got to pull me away from it. Even before I got in this field and I worked retail to feed my family, I paid the mortgage and put food on the table working retail.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not a glamorous job. It's not something that, the college posters say that you're aspiring to. Like nobody's, from like generally speaking, nobody's like aspiring to work in retail. Okay.
Right.
But I loved it. I loved my people. I loved motivating my team. You had to like pull me away to keep me from checking in when days were off because I wanted to see how they were doing. Okay. So your attitude and your approach to your work is going to be the game changer. Right. So many times in life we complain about the things that we need to change and say, oh, one day, if I had this different job, if I had this different spouse, if I had this different, lived in this different house, what needs to change isn't the content of your life. What needs to change is the approach to the things in your life.
Yeah.
So how are you approaching that job? How are you approaching that relationship? How are you approaching any other situation? That approach is what needs to change. And when you have that mindset, you're going to make the entire journey enjoyable. I'm not suggesting that it's without, heartaches and it's without stress. Certainly those things are there. But if you don't get behind an approach like that, you won't make it the long haul, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
I like that, man. And you were worried about the truth bombs? You're throwing them at me left and right. So I know that you also enjoy reading. Is that something that you've always enjoyed doing, or is this something you've just recently picked up? Because this idea behind being an entrepreneur now, it's, you get up at 4 a.m. and you drink 10 gallons of water and you read a book every week. Is that something new, or is that just something you've learned along the way? Like, I need, more inspiration, or I not even necessarily need more inspiration, but just learning from other people, like the greats.
Ever since I was a child, I've just always been interested in information.
Got it.
So as a young child, when the book fair would come to school, or when we'd get the scholastic reading, club with the paper where you get to check off the books. I was fortunate that my parents, ordered books for me every time because I wanted them. And so I've been a reader since early on. And it just stems from the fact that I'm just insanely curious. When I meet people that, are in a field I know nothing about, I ask lots of questions.
Right.
Not because I'm trying to impress them, but because I have, for, right or wrong, I have this feeling like I can understand it. So let me ask the questions, and I want to feel like I can understand it at a very high level, whatever it is they're doing, whether it's like aerospace engineering or whatever else. When I meet people, I ask lots of questions. So I'm just insanely curious. And so that drives my thirst for knowledge, and why I read so much and listen to audiobooks and I even listen to certain podcasts that have nothing to do with my line of work. In fact, it's in a field that I have nothing to do with, such as like listening to astrophysics and things around cosmos. And one of my favorite podcasts is one called Closer to Truth. And it's extremely heady, just so heady and brainiac. And there's a bunch of stuff that goes over my head, but they get into a lot of discussions where I feel like it's in my wheelhouse around like philosophy and discussing meaning and logic. And that really feeds me. So I've always just been interested and had that approach and had that thirst for learning. So I read all the time. I'm listening to something new all the time. I'm constantly feeding my brain.
What books are you reading right now that are inspiring for you?
So I've got one called Tuned In. I forget who the author is, but it's about how you can create product market fit in your business such that when you nail it, the marketplace is kind of pulling it out of you instead of you pushing it on the marketplace.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah, it's a great book. And then of course recently I re-listened to, I got this one on audio, was The Alchemist. So I re-listened to that. That's more of like a motivational tap into your personal development, let your mind explore, the meaning of the story that's told, the parable that's told in there. But The Alchemist is a fantastic one. I highly recommend that on audio. But again, I'm reading right now, Tuned In.
Got it. Okay, I'll have to check those out. And then my other question, I think I have a couple more questions for you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
One of them is just, do you have any new ventures that you were tapping into? I know obviously you have many different hats that you wear, as I mentioned earlier, but is there anything new that you are going to take on in the near future, or is there anything else that we can expect from the Frank Cowell?
No, we're doing a lot with our brand in terms of, our own podcast. We launched the book
Yeah.
last year called Building Your Digital Utopia. If you want to learn more about that, it's at
It's a
buildingyourdigitalutopia.com.
great book.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're doing a lot with the firm. I've hired a growth coach in preparation to really take the firm to just a completely different level
Awesome.
in the next 3 to 5 years or so. So that's really exciting. Beyond that, just personal hobbies, really just digging into those, my personal interests, and actually committing to those more than I ever have, which has been really fun. And I think it's just probably a stage of life where it's like, like those finding that joy in things that don't require, anyone else's validation or anyone else's input or, anything else. That's been real fun. So doing things like martial arts and looking at doing some more outdoor stuff more and really enjoying that.
Very cool. I like that. I Let's see, is there anything else that I can think of to ask you? You've just given me so many good like nuggets of information that I really am excited to hear this one back. So I guess just another thing just to kind of end here is there, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the one thing I would add we didn't get into that the advice I try to give to all people entering any workforce, and this isn't just like professional white collar stuff, like this is blue collar, white collar, this is like any workforce, is this, I think the skill that is not emphasized enough in school, the skill that's not talked about enough in business, that is the absolute game changer, is the ability to communicate. And so if you're in school right now and you're listening to this and you have the opportunity to change your classes or schedule some additional classes coming up, I would absolutely put in work around your communication skills, both in written and spoken word. Yeah. Your ability to effectively communicate an idea, have people understand why that idea is important and get them on board with that idea is absolutely critical to your career, whether you're employed by someone else or you're the employer yourself. And this is the number one skill, hands down, because no matter what you're doing in life, you're always communicating something to get people excited and on board, whether it's someone you'd love to date or whether it's an idea you're trying to push through for a new project at your company, or whether you're an owner and you're trying to get your team on board for a new idea or a new offering. So communication is the number one business skill, and I would say life skill. If you don't know how to communicate, and if you're not confident communicating, I would work on that. And that's one of the things where I would say, I'm from the school of thought that you double down on your strengths and you kind of just mitigate your weaknesses. You don't try to make your weaknesses your strengths. Like that's just kind of, you got to go with what you've got. You got to go with where your strengths are. But the ability to communicate is something that if it's a weakness for you, I think you have to find a way to turn it into a strength that works for you. So that might be written. The written word might be where you really shine. Visual composition to communicate ideas might be where you shine. Spoken word, but communicating effectively is going to be critical to your success.
Absolutely. I definitely think me having my teacher background, I feel like that is something that a lot of our students are unfortunately lacking now because of the technology age with, social media and, the shortening and, they tend to hide behind things like a website or, an app to communicate with somebody. And it's just so easy to do that now. So that is a skill that I've noticed since I have been in school that has really affected these kids.
So you bring up a really good point. So if you're listening today, look, life is competitive. That may sound a little harsh, but life is competitive, right? People are going to try to get the job that you're trying to get. People are trying to, do the things you're trying to do, sell to the clients you're trying to sell to. So life is competitive and, that has its pros and cons, but it's a reality of life. And so if you're listening today and you're serious about this, I think you have a great opportunity because of what you just mentioned. I think so many people are getting dumbed down in this art of communication, effective communication. They're getting dumbed down. And I don't mean to sound like an old codger saying, oh, that social media is ruining us all. I don't mean to say that, but the technology and the modes of communication today are not improving our communication skills. I can say that pretty emphatically. They're not improving our communication skills. So if you're here today, I think you have a great chance to compete and stand out if you just put in, you know, just a smidge of work on your communication skills. Like, you know, watch some YouTube videos on how to be a better communicator, attend a Toastmasters, you know, club, which is very affordable to join, by the way. There's no reason why people can't. That's the other thing. I go back to this idea of like opportunity and like college costs so much and all this. There are so many ways to educate yourself today, right? And I would dare say faster, quicker, and better, right? Mm-hmm. Faster and better. You know, you can go to a Toastmasters club. You could be studying stuff, you know, online. Books are practically free these at any library, right? Like all of this stuff, like your subscriptions, you get this stuff is so cheap. There are people teaching courses that cost way less than a college tuition. Like there's no reason that everyone can't be educated today. This idea that education has to come from these walls of these like hallowed halls that, you know, cost you tens of thousands of dollars every year is just crazy to me. It's crazy to me to think that the only way you can get educated is by paying someone else gobs and gobs and gobs of money, especially in the world we live in today, where information is in front of everybody and so readily accessible. Again, I mentioned like Toastmasters, right? You can go to Toastmasters. It's something like, I don't know, something like $60 a month or something. It's like ridiculous, right? You can go there and learn to be a world-class communicator and improve how competitive you're going to be in the job market. Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you instead spend tens of thousands of dollars more and kind of like not gain those critical skills? I'm not suggesting people don't go to college. So if you're hearing today, like, I don't want you lashing out at me on Twitter or whatever else and telling me like, you telling people not to go to college. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are no reason for excuses today. So if you're in a position where you can't go to college because there's a financial limitation or whatnot, then that can't be your excuse that you're not educated and you're not competitive. That can't be the excuse. If that's the excuse, then you're not taking responsibility into your own hands for your own future and your own outcomes in life. Don't do that.
Love that. So true. Take every opportunity that you can to make yourself successful. Because as you mentioned earlier, there really is no excuse if you're committed. I love that.
Yeah. Look, read a book, listen to some YouTube videos, go to this thing called Toastmasters, which is dirt cheap. Like there are so many things you can do that require very little money, right? But life is about choices.
Right.
And so if you're here today and you're feeling like that and you're like, change that mindset, you have to make choices. You can make a choice to complain about it, or you can make a choice to change a couple of daily routines, change a couple of things that you do. Maybe you work a couple of more hours and now you're doing the things that are investing in yourself because no one's going to do it for you.
Love that. Truth bombs. The mic has dropped. That was awesome.
Well, this was fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. It's been awesome learning from you as always, and having you on with us. And I look forward to seeing you soon in business thriving and in life, of course.
Yeah,
so thank you again. I really, really appreciate it. And I am excited. Hopefully there will be a part 2 to your book soon. Hopefully we'll be hearing more from Digitopia soon, your company. And yeah, we look forward to following you.
Okay. Thanks for having me. Take care, Sarah.
Thanks. What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for listening to some inspiration and truth bombs from Frank Cowell. If you were interested in getting in contact with him, the LinkedIn profile will be posted in the description for you guys to access. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Don't forget to hit the follow button to follow along with more of the Vitality Vision and hearing from some awesome and inspirational individuals. See you later.